Let's take a look at how we would do homework 2. Here we can see the question for homework 2. Describe 2 study techniques that apply at least 2 of the ideas found in chapter 5, including chunking, gaining around the serial position effect, that's found on page 133 of your book, the phonological loop, and the visual spatial sketchpad. So we want to describe 2 study techniques. So refer to an actual thing that you want to study. Here, Piaget's stages of cognitive development as a simple example, something that we've probably all been exposed to. The first study technique that I'm going to use is chunking, and it lends itself to this very well because we have quite a bit of information here. We have the stages, the age, and the characteristics and so on. And so I'm going to try and limit some of the load on working memory by reducing the number of individual pieces of information by chunking. The way that I'm going to do it is just by taking the first letter of each stage, so S, P, C, F. Now right now I have that as 4 letters, so I have reduced 4 words, or actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words into 4 letters that will hopefully remind me of sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operations, and formal operations. Now I can chunk this even further by turning SPCF into one phrase. And I'll do that by creating a phrase that says, small people carry fun. So just a silly little phrase like that, and now I have one phrase that used to convey all of these words, and so much more efficient, and an example here of chunking. My second technique is going to come from page 133, where it talks about how to get around the limits of the serial position effect, where we're likely to remember the first item and the last item, but not the ones in the middle. So to get around that, they recommend, or the book recommends, to connect information. And so I'm going to do that with sensory motor as an example of how I'm going to connect all of these ideas, not just the first one, not just the last one, but all of these ideas with the concept. Want to connect information using meaning often. That's going to be more effective for us for several reasons. Sensory motor, I'm going to take that word and just kind of break it down, and so it's involving sensing the world and moving. This connects easily to what is written down here by looking, touching, sucking. So the child is seeing and hearing and tasting, feeling, and then reacting to these things, reaching out to these things. And that gives me an idea of what the sensory motor stage really means. And so when I come up with the first S here in SPCF, and I remember, okay, that's sensory motor, then I can think of the word itself, sensory motor, and remind myself, oh yeah, that has to do with sensing and moving, and then from there connect those ideas to the specific examples of sensing and moving that a child would be doing during this particular stage. And I can do that for all of them, and in that way the content will all be linked. And so once I think of the word, it'll be connected to the main ideas that it's connected, that it's related to, or that it's trying to express. The second part is to describe how each technique would help process information effectively in the sensory register, working memory, and long-term memory. And so for this, I would encourage you to go ahead and draw out the 3-stage memory model and describe how this works. So chunking is going to be effective here in short-term memory by reducing the information, the number of items in short-term memory, and that helps us get around one of the big limitations of short-term memory. For the second study technique, where we're connecting information, I'm going to do something similar. So lay out the three-stage memory model. But now what I'm studying here in short-term memory, I am connecting these concepts. So I am connecting the word sensory motor to sensing and moving, and then sensing and moving is connected to the specific actions described, the seeing, hearing, tasting, and feeling, and so on. So when I think of sensory motor in short-term memory, I can retrieve in long-term memory a whole bunch of stuff that's connected to that item. So the word sensory motor then is going to be connected to seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, as well as reaching and reacting. And so retrieval, it will bring up not just the word sensory motor, but all these other concepts that are connected to it. Each technique is helpful because it helps to work with the three-stage memory model and kind of help us process information in a way that promotes good storage. And chunking overcomes the limitation of the limit to the number of items we can hold in short-term memory at any given time. And then the idea of connecting information helps with retrieval, because once we retrieve the one concept, we're going to be able to retrieve all the other ideas that are linked to it.